Hi everybody, it is Casey here with my blog Mountain Cove Home and Family and my small business Mountain Cove Market. Today I'm going to share with you my experience of making over hand painting this beautiful French country wedding armoire. This is made in the early 1900s. It is an antique, but it's also an antique reproduction of the King Louis XV wedding and marriage armoires. And so just a beautiful piece, and it was really pretty when I bought it in its original shape. It was all solid walnut with like a dark cherry stain finish. So it was very pretty, but it was also very foreboding and just very dark. You know how dark, really massive dark wood pieces can be. And so painting it brought out all of the detail, and it was such a fun process to do. For anybody who's like super worried that maybe I took an antique and ruined it by painting it, I will tell you that this piece, and one's very similar to it, I talked to an auctioneer from New York. He does just antique auctions where things sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he said these pieces have been consistently selling for $700 to $900 in their unpainted state. And so this was a custom order. A client had, or a customer on Etsy had contacted me, and I'd had sort of a similar French country piece. It's green. I did a YouTube video on that so you can see the makeover process for that. And she purchased that piece, and she's like, can you find me another one? And she has a historic home and there's no closets, and so she needed two armoires to be closet space, and she wanted them kind of similar. And so I found this armoire in my local area through the marketplace. It was actually at a flea market, and the person who had the flea market booth had advertised on Marketplace. So I picked it up for her, purchased it, and then began the process of painting it. So this is what the armoire looked like before I got started, and we had picked this up in the flea market in Missouri. Here I am working on the headdress, which is the top cap to the armoire. So this armoire is actually two pieces. You have the main body, and then the top part comes off. So we removed that and put it on a workbench, which made it a lot easier to paint and to redesign. So I will say, for the paint that I used on this French country armoire, I used a mix of Krylon chalk paint. I also had some homemade chalk paint and some Dutch boy chalk paint. For the golds, I used Rust-Oleum metallic gold, and then also some liquid gold leafing. The liquid gold leafing was primarily used on the lovebirds, and then also on a little bit of the trim on the doors, which we'll be able to see in a little while. So right here, it is just a detail of going through all these flowers and the leaves. I had started out this armoire, and the process that I had started with was a deep cleaning, and then I had used a liquid Jasco, or a Jasco, which is a liquid sander and deglosser. I rubbed that on with a paintbrush all over, and then once that dries, and that's just good prep work, it helps the paint to adhere better and to last longer and to really harden up well. Jasco reduces chipping and that type of thing, and it's pretty much a standard what I do in most of my pieces for part of the prep work. On here, I am going over the middle part of the flowers, and this was a combination of I had started out with a coral color, and to me it was a little too bright, so I'm going in and just darken it up a little bit. And these artist brush, when you do fine detail, I got these artist brush I'm using are from Hobby Lobby. They are just your best friend when you are working in, on ornate detail that is very small to do. I didn't worry about, whenever you have this much detail, you're always going to have some paint that overlaps into areas where you don't want it to you don't want it to be. And so that is definitely was the case with working on this armor and all of the details. Sometimes my blue would get on the green and vice versa. And I didn't worry about the first time when I was going through and painting all of the detail to make everything absolutely perfect. Once everything was all the way finished and painted, then I went back and I spent on the last day a few hours going through and just doing touch up here and there where it was needed, just to refine everything and to get those spots that maybe paint got in a certain area and a color that I didn't want it to be in. And so if I just found that's an easy way for me to work, is not to make everything perfect when I'm going through, but to go back and do touch-ups at the end. And so I had researched, the customers had given me free reign to do whatever I had wanted with this armoire. And so I had sent them some color palettes and said, this is kind of what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And they agreed and they really liked it. They shared their input with me. Their bedroom had a lot of blues in it. And also this the French country armoire that I previously painted that was kind of a mint pistachio green, that was going in the same room. So I wanted to incorporate a little bit of green on this armoire just so it would bounce back and forth and, with and complement the green one that would be in the same bedroom. I did use an olive green, so it wasn't the exact same green, and on a lot of the leaves of this armoire. And so when I used the olive green, when I first applied it, I'm like, this is too dark. And so I went ahead and painted it almost most of the leaves this olive green, and I went back with a cream wash. And so every leaf got a cream wash. The colors that I used were just multiple colors, but to kind of give you an idea, I had started out with, on the Krylon chalk paint, I used Valspar's Schoolboy Blue, which is the palest blue that you will see on this armoire. I'd started out using that on the body, and then for me it was a little too light, so I went in and did some custom color mixes to get a little bit darker, what I consider just a very natural French country blue. So that is the dark blue you see on most of the body. And then I did, there was no sanding done on this armoire except for at the end just to sand it to give it like a light buffing to smooth everything out and make the surface really smooth to the touch. But all of the distressing that you see on here is done with just a wet distressing. So a damp cloth rubbed over the paint in certain areas before the paint had completely dried. And so that's how the distressing was done to antique it. For kind of the lacy trim, I used a combination of a ivory, so almost like an antique ivory, along with a cream color, like a country cream, and those two mixed together, playing on that lace type detail, I think just really produced a very beautiful, old-fashioned appeal to it, and that's kind of what I was going for. I used a lot of gold on this. I like the warm gold of the Rust-Oleum metallic, but I also like the more brighter and vibrant gold of the liquid gold leafing. So I used both of those. And now that these guys were done and paired together, I think they just look absolutely amazing together, and they'll be in the same room. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you'll keep up with me at Mountain Cove Home and Family.